Hello and welcome to the Marketing Shed with myself, Warren Fiveash, and my colleague, Mr. Paul Duxbury. We've been going for a little while now, so we wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who's listened or watched us on YouTube. It really is appreciated by all of us here, and we can't wait to continue to bring this podcast over the next few weeks. So we hope that you enjoy the episode, and if you haven't already, give us a little subscribe on YouTube or a follow on whatever listening platform you're finding us on. So for now, thank you very much and enjoy the episode. Good afternoon, Paul. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm good. I'm just coming down from the rush of having been in a big room teaching 20 people things like brand positioning, which has been fabulous. But I'm feeling the rush, the post-gig rush.
Well, hopefully it's not affected you too much for this podcast. Hopefully your brain isn't too flummoxed by all the talking about brand positioning.
No, I should be okay. I've got some energy left. And how about you? How are you, Warren? Are you in good shape?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, got a good start to the week. So yeah, no, very very good. I'm very good. Been doing lots of doing market research this week actually on a project. So
Really?
that's been good. Yeah, that's been good because you know the old saying in marketing, don't you, that you're not your customer. So it's always that research is always an opportunity to step into the feet of your customers and your supporters, isn't it? So that it's been fascinating and learned lots about kind of what people are thinking about what we do and our organisation and what we might do next. So it's been good.
Wow. And what was the methodology? What was it? Groups or one-to-ones?
It was focus groups actually. So they're always interesting, aren't they? Because you really hear the conversation and you hear what people think in the room. So you get to really listen and hear what people are saying about things we're looking at. It has been fascinating actually. What you get sometimes you get surprises. You go in with a bit of a hypothesis about what people might think, and actually a lot of it has been quite reassuring about the things we think people think. So that's as good as being surprised, right? Because you're on the right track. But it's not all down just to focus groups, right? You've got to do a few other things as well, so surveys and things like that. So we're doing that as well in the coming weeks. So that'll add a bit of context and layers to it too. So yeah, so it's exciting.
I think so. And I think that those focus groups are good, but I think it's all in the interpretation, isn't it? And the risk is that the focus groups get taken at face value. And of course, they're only one part of the jigsaw. I'm sure you know this.
Yeah.
But the fascinating thing is if you can then take the focus groups back to the office and add to them all the other data and information you've got, and then start to try and identify the insights. And that's not an easy thing to do. That's a big effort.
Exactly. It's about taking it, isn't it, in context of the other information you're getting back. So all the other insight. And actually, yeah, that's the next phase. So actually, when we get that bit back and take it into context with the focus group feedback, it should make for some interesting reading. And then, like you say, you can really bring some of those bits out that make sense in relation to everything else. So yeah, so it's good. I like doing this bit. It's interesting hearing what people think and that process, the process of marketing at these early phases. So yeah, it's good.
Excellent. Well, good luck with that.
What about you? So you're still in Switzerland, right?
I am still in Switzerland. Yes, I spent all of last week with the Roche team. Been brilliant. They're a fab team, full of energy, full of challenge, full of good ideas. So we've done a bit of work around how to develop really good strategy. Interestingly, basing that around insights and the importance of insights to underpin identification of sources of potential growth. And then we've moved on to how to execute with excellence. And I've run one cohort last week, one this week, which is partway through, which is all about how do you avoid the curse of random activity generation and actually base your activity selection on strategic choices about whose beliefs you're trying to change in order to drive growth. So that's been really interesting.
Great. It sounds good. It sounds like that chat we had a couple of weeks ago about fundamentals and making sure you're kind of going through the process to make sure you're picking the right things, right?
Absolutely.
Because there are so many ways you can go down right now. So actually giving reason for stuff and logic.
Yeah, I think so. And also what's really interesting about it is, the way I teach strategy and planning is quite methodical, and it's deliberately like that because I may have mentioned this before, but it's a bit like the reason Elton John can improvise so well is because he knows his scales. And so he knows the fundamentals of how a keyboard works and how music works. And in the same way, if you understand the principles of how marketing works, you can then riff on them without getting lost and without getting off topic.
Yeah.
And so that's why I take this approach. And it's fun to watch the teams using that approach to give them that firm foundation, which they can then start to apply to suit their industry and to suit their preferred ways of working and their strengths.
And have you been using the trams, Paul? Because you said last week that you're going to have access to the trams in Switzerland. You'll be getting around,
funnily enough,
or not?
I did use the trams, and there's lots of good reasons to live in Basel. And one of them is that the tram system is brilliant. So yesterday I went to see FC Basel in all their glory. And
did you?
there's a tram. Yes, I did. And the tram went from 50 metres from the door of where I'm staying all the way to the stadium and dropped me off outside the stadium. No changes and 20 minutes. Gosh, there you go. So yes, I've been loving the trams and loving FC Basel, despite the fact that I missed the first goal because I was WhatsApping everybody to tell them where I was, which was my own stupid fault.
It's modern life.
Yes.
Problems, Paul, isn't it? Yeah. We're too enough into our phones telling everyone where we are without being present, right?
Yes, exactly. So tell me, Warren, what's been catching your eye this week in the world of marketing?
Well, this is a bit meta in a way because we're on YouTube, aren't we? I'm going to talk about YouTube. Obviously it's been around 20 years or so now. Actually, Paul, how much do you watch YouTube out of interest?
Good question. I would say at least an hour a day.
And do you watch it on your TV set or do you watch it on your mobile or a bit of both?
80% on my mobile.
Do you? That's it. That's interesting. Because you probably would have seen that actually over the last few years. They've obviously got a strategy of linking up with the kind of TV manufacturers. So you've got the app on these smart TVs, right? So that more people are watching this on their actual TV sets now. But anyway, I don't know if you saw last week, there was a report from Barb, who are like the people that measure TV ratings, TV viewings, that said that you overtook the BBC for overall reach in December. So they had, I think it was 51 million, a reach of 51 million in December, and the BBC had about 50 million there or thereabouts. They've only been reporting this from October, November, so it's still early days of reporting on YouTube's reach figures. But there's been a lot of chatter about, TV's dead because of this figure. But actually, I wonder about that, because when you look a bit deeper into how they record the figures, how they kind of come up with that figure, and this is what I understand from what I've read, is that it's based on people that view more than 3 minutes of the video.
3
basically.
minutes.
So that's one view. So that's logged as one view of that 51 million. So that's interesting, because that tells you something about people's viewing habits in a way, doesn't it? And actually, if you up that to 15 minutes, I think the BBC beats it by 6 million or so. So it's interesting. But actually, I read a bit more about it, and I think what it says is something more about people's viewing habits rather than one platform beating another platform. Actually, you think about it, a lot of the main broadcasters now on YouTube, right? So you've got BBC content, you've got ITV, Channel 4, all the traditional broadcasters, plus all this other new content. So actually, it's more about how these broadcasters are probably having to tap into YouTube because people's viewing habits are changing and they're watching content in a slightly different way, as opposed to any one kind of main traditional broadcaster flailing behind YouTube in the sense that maybe it portrayed as when you first see that stat. So I thought it was interesting because I think people's viewing habits are changing, and I watch YouTube a lot on my TV now. So I'll watch kind of these long form podcasts which are going very visual and they're very polished and look very lush on screen now. And I think you're going to see more and more of that. And I think you're going to see more and more brands and these other TV platforms kind of tapping into whacking their shows straight onto YouTube, because that's where people are now. I think more and more people are there. So, however, when you look at actually how many people watch YouTube on a TV set, I think compared to, I'm using the BBC as a bit of a benchmark because they're probably the biggest. It's still it's still kind of, the BBC beat it by quite a distance. So I think they've got about 50 million people watching on TV sets, and I think it's 37 million on YouTube, which is still a lot actually compared to a lot of other broadcasters. But it just shows you how people are watching TV slightly differently on their main set, but also on their phones, and watching content. And what does that mean for advertisers? I suppose you have to think about how you speak to these audiences in a slightly different way. You have to provide content in a way that as people are watching things on the fly, they're not necessarily taking in for who this stuff comes from when they're on YouTube, are they? They're not thinking about the brand it comes from per se. They're just thinking about the content, and they're not really thinking about who owns that. So there's more of a job of how do you get across the kind of brand values that who's providing this thing, so that people are more aware of that, I suppose, for organisations, and that's the challenge. I think that a lot of people
and I
have to think about.
wonder, because I recognise everything you say, I wonder if there's an opportunity and a challenge. So I'm thinking that with YouTube, the opportunity is it's easier to target because you've got content that's very specific to a certain audience. Therefore, if your audience is into X, Y, or Z, there's probably a YouTube source of content for that. But then, of course, the challenge is the fragmentation. So how do you communicate at scale? And I don't have the answers, but I think that is the sort of dichotomy that you've got to work with. And successful brands will embrace that and do the best they can and be pretty agile about how they approach their use of advertising through those channels. But it just requires, I think, a higher maintenance approach. That's probably on the upside. That's probably where AI can help in terms of how you actually manage your media schedule to reflect that proliferation of channels and opportunities.
Yeah, it's a minefield, right? Because I guess YouTube is predominantly free, isn't it? You can pay for premium to get rid of ads, but it's a free platform. Anyone can use it. Anyone can watch stuff. You can upload for free. You can watch for free. The only thing is you get ads, right? So you have to put up with the ads. So there, like you say, there's an opportunity there to really, for people to target, like you say, and really kind of reach audiences in a slightly new way. Saying that has been around for 20 years, so it's not that new, but it's really evolved, isn't it? I think in the last 5 or 6 years into something quite massive that really competes, I think, now with those big broadcasters. Although it's not really a broadcaster in the traditional sense, it's kind of, bringing content together from different platforms in a way, isn't it? So an individual.
Yeah, it's an aggregator. I don't think YouTube directly create content, do they? They
no,
encourage it through the model they run, but they don't actually commission
their own work. No,
that might be interesting.
I do wonder if you'll start to see more people, putting kind of drama series and more of these kind of things direct to YouTube in the next few years. I wonder if you'll see more of that, because at the moment you see more of this podcast type content or like aggregator type content. But actually, I wonder if you'll see more and more of that polished content coming on. But yeah, it'd be interesting the next few years. It was just an interesting stat, I thought, and really kind of asked the question, a lot of people are saying about TV being dead. I don't think it is. It's just changing, isn't it? Right? It's just a changing kind of format, and I don't think it'll ever die in the way that people have said it has, but it's evolving. And on that, you've got an interesting, kind of related to that, haven't you? An interesting thought, which I saw on LinkedIn earlier, around TED Talks and what you think of those.
Yes. I hope I don't get in terrible trouble for this.
I've just dropped you in it now, Paul. Sorry about that.
Yes, thanks for drawing attention. So I love TED. I love TED Talks. I've listened to a lot of TED Talks and learned a great deal and been hugely provoked into different ways of thinking about things through TED Talks. And my sadness, it is genuine sadness, is that I've noticed in my experience at least that the quality of the TED Talks, by which I mean the quality of the thinking, seems to have dropped off just in the last few months, in my observation. Disappointingly, it feels like substance has been put to the back burner, and it's all about style. It's all about presenters saying things in a engaging way and being perhaps deliberately provocative and making grand sweeping statements that create good headlines. But actually, when you start to test the logic and look at the reasoning and look at the justification, the argumentation either doesn't really stack up or is just a bit obvious, a bit like just do this because it's common sense. And I fear TED is losing its way because part of its strength was that it didn't always deliver beautifully bookended content. It wasn't, this is the situation, here's the complication, here's the resolution. It was, here's what I've observed, here's what I'm thinking about it. I'm not quite finished with my thinking, but then it allowed the viewer to then go away and take that idea and develop it. But now it feels very, very good content to put into YouTube Shorts or to put into short LinkedIn posts. But I think some of the integrity of the ideas has been sacrificed, deliberately or subconsciously, to support the more sort of media friendly content. Only my view, and said with sadness, but that does seem to be what's happening to me.
That's fascinating. And do you think it's a victim of its own success in that way? So what I know about TED Talks through YouTube, it seems to be the theme, doesn't it? And so I guess if they, in your opinion, the algorithm, people have cottoned onto the fact that, by getting a headline, you get more views, and actually the tone of the content then becomes more about that rather than the substance. And so actually that's a broader issue, isn't it, in a way?
And I think that might be at the heart of it. I don't know, but I just get the sense that the people who are reviewing content as being TED worthy are evaluating it more on the sort of headline than the substance and the quality of the argumentation or the thinking. And I thought maybe this is just a TEDx thing, but I've taken a look at some of the sort of full TED content and formed a similar view or observed a similar traits. It's not unfixable. It's fixable very quickly, just in terms of the review mechanism. And even though it might be delivering better rates in terms of viewing of content, I think it's a good example of where if you don't maintain high standards for your product, then ultimately that will come to bite you, because viewers will not get what they're looking for.
Do you know what? I can't think actually the last time I really watched one, when I think about it, a TED Talk all the way through, or listened to one on sort of podcast format. So I can't really think of the last time I watched one, which may say something in itself. I don't know.
I think so. And in my experience, maybe yours, I tend to watch one when somebody says this is good. Watch it. And so the fact that stuff isn't being recommended as much reinforces the point that there's less stuff that's capturing people's imagination than there used to be.
Have you ever come close to doing a TED Talk, Paul, out of interest?
I haven't. The aspiration I've had, I mentioned it in that post. The aspiration I've had was to go to the big TED gathering, the annual gathering, which I think costs thousands of pounds to get your seat. A couple of years ago, I would have loved to have been on the guest list or the invitation list or the attendee list. But that's not really so much the case now. And as to speaking at TED, I would quite enjoy the challenge of preparing something to fit the TED format. I'd be pretty doubtful I would meet the grade in terms of the quality of the content. Well, that's very kind of you to say so. But maybe I should write the speech and then find out. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe say, well, we'll stop moaning about it and produce something that's TED worthy and up the quality of their content. That is a fair challenge. So let me ruminate on that.
That is fair dues. Fair dues. Watch this space. Let's see what TED do next, right? Maybe they'll listen to this. You never know.
Yeah. And talking of spaces, what's filling your diary space the next?
Well, I am organising lots of workshops internally, actually, across the organisation I work for, with kind of key stakeholders, building on some of this research work we've been doing, actually, to get under the skin of what people think about our marketing. So that's going to be interesting and exciting to hear from different parts of our organisation. So I'm really energised and excited for that. And then hopefully that'll take place in sort of February time. So busy time for us getting under the skin of how we do things. So it's going to be interesting to get that feedback. What about yourself, Paul?
Wow. Well, I am involved in the ultimate plate spinning activity, in that I think I mentioned this, I'm trying to prepare for a marathon whilst also delivering all the fabulous project work I'm engaged on. And I've realised that is possible to do, but only if the rest of your life ceases to exist. So I'm basically either going to be doing really, really interesting stuff around building skills, optimizing operating models, all that good stuff, or I'm going to be pounding the pavement of my neighborhood in the pursuit of math and excellence. Anything else, frankly, is not going to happen and will be considered irrelevant.
Well, that's good prioritization, right? You're prioritizing what you think you can do, what the capacity you've got. You're thinking, let's not take on too much. I can focus on these 2 things, right? I think I say 2 things. There's lots in the other thing. So
yes, I think that's very fair. That's very fair. So that's the week ahead. Boring, but necessary.
Yeah. Well, we're nearly at the end of January, Paul, aren't we? So, this month is always a little bit, there's not much going on, extracurricular stuff generally. So hopefully by the end of Jan.
Speak for yourself, Warren.
Yeah, that is speaking for myself. That's because I'm stuck here with 2 little kids, 2 toddlers, and there's not much going on. So, yeah.
Yes. If the day was stretched to be 28 hours, then I would still have lack of space. Like you say, ruthless prioritization is the order of the day.
I hear that. I just about squeezed this in, and I would never miss this for the world. So this is one of those things I look forward to every week, but I couldn't fit much else in extra around work and kids.
Excellent. Love it. Love it. I will see you in a week's time. Let's compare notes.
Yeah. See you. Cheers, Paul. Have a good one.
Ciao.